And welcome our presenters today. Molly Bacon comes to us from TechSoup for Libraries. She is the social media manager there. And first we're going to begin with Sharice Mead, who comes to us from the Mesa Public Library. She is a Librarian 3 and also the marketing team lead at the Mesa Public Library. We are so glad to have both of you here and look forward to all the great work you are bringing to this session today. Welcome, Sharice. And I'm going to just go ahead and unmute you, Sharice. There you go.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. It's so exciting to be here today to talk about one of my favorite subjects, which is math. But don't worry, we'll go easy on the math. So we're going to be talking about social media analytics. I'm going to give you a very general overview, sort of some things to get you started, to guide you as you're starting out on this. And beyond that, Molly will take over and have some more specifics for everybody too. So just to give you a little bit more information about myself, I am a Librarian 3 and our marketing team lead. I started out in adult programming. A spot opened up on our marketing team a couple of years ago, and I was able to join then. And our team leader left in February, and I applied for and was promoted into that position. So I saw another speaker do this recently, me in 3 pictures. So the bottom left there is me meeting the bloggess with one of my colleagues. And if you don't know the bloggess, she's hilarious and you should read all of her books. The top right is making a goofy picture for social media, which is also one of my favorite things to do. And then I am a compulsive traveler, so the bottom right is me in Namibia in Southern Africa with my husband. So with that out of the way, let's get started talking about analytics. So as I mentioned, we're going to talk a lot about how to choose what you're going to measure. So some questions to ask yourself as you are beginning to put all of this together for yourself. We'll move from there onto selecting metrics. This is going to be pretty platform neutral because I know Molly is going to be talking more specifically about KPIs and things like that. And then we'll also take a brief look at some ways that you can use Excel to learn from your data. So I wanted to approach this from the idea of if you downloaded a year's worth of information from one of your social media platforms today, what could you learn from it? And there's actually a lot without even any additional tools. So we'll get started with choosing what to measure. Let me advance my slide here. And some questions to ask yourself. And the first one, as the great Simon Sinek says, is start with why. So why do you want to jump into social media analytics, select metrics, anything like that? You could have a lot of different reasons. You could want to understand your audience better. You know, who is out there, who's listening to you, and what might they enjoy more from you. You could be looking at ways to reach more people. So I'm confident that I'm putting great content out there, but my followers, there's just not enough of them. So I really want to expand my audience. You could want to raise awareness of library stuff, your programs, your services, your collections. You might want to use social media to sort of raise general awareness out in the wild about your different things. And then also to create organizational buy-in, and I think this is one that is kind of top of mind for a lot of people, judging by what we've been seeing in the comments coming in from people. So we'll definitely talk about that, and it's a very valid goal. So moving on from there, you should think about where do you fit in, and when I say fit in, I mean to your larger organizational goals. So all of those things that we talked about that you might want to be doing with your social media are analogous to things that you can do with your, within your library, rather, let me say it that way. So if you think of it like what you report for your building. So statistics you might report to the state or wherever else you need to give metrics to your city. You talk about people through the door. How many people came in? Is it more now than it was then? You talk about circulation, reference interactions, how many questions are you answering? And when you look at these categories, you notice that none of these really give you the whole picture. So you can't measure the entirety of your services or the quality of a week's worth of person-to-person interactions given by library staff by these numbers. But these numbers are very useful. You can look for trends and sort of contextualize them from there. So there are more people coming in this week than there were this week last year at the same time. Why might that be? Why are more books checking out? Why are less books checking out? These can all contextualize it. And I think you'll find with social media metrics and analytics, as we're going to talk about, there are some analogous things. So you can think about your followers as being people through the door, likes, clicks, comments on a post, questions that you're answering. I mean, that's almost the same thing as a reference interaction. And in many cases, it is the same thing. So these are all kind of ways to frame what you're trying to look for in your social media. And then the third thing to ask yourself is, who cares? You know, who's the audience going to be for these numbers that you're gathering? Who cares about your analytics? When you're developing content, Facebook posts, things like that, you always take sort of the audience first approach. And this is the same, but your audience in this case isn't going to be the public always. So it might be yourself. You might want to ask your analytics, how am I doing? Is what I'm putting out there working? You may need to tell your boss your analytics. So your boss may be wondering, is our social media supporting our goals? Why are you spending your time on this? I'm sure some people have heard that. And your boss's boss even. How do you stack up against other libraries and departments? I know this is something I have come across in my stakeholders, not necessarily in my organization in the library, but in the broader organization. So how are you comparing to Parks and Recreation? Is your growth similar? Those kinds of things. And now I know what you're thinking. You want to measure everything because we're librarians, right? We can't do that. We need to moderate our expectations with our statistics. So let's talk about expectation versus reality. So our expectation for our home bookshelves is that we really expect that if we can gather every book out there, if we buy another 20 books, we'll be able to arrange it in a really beautiful, functional way. It's going to be great. The reality is that the books make it home, and we end up with a great big pile. I know I do. Magazines, books, whatever it is. And we get overwhelmed, right? Things get buried. How many books do you have sitting in your house that you've never read, or that you've forgotten that you've even ever had? It's the same way with analytics. So you don't want to overwhelm yourself by trying to do every single thing. Start out small. And I'm going to give you permission at the outset. No data set is ever going to give you the whole picture, just like we talked about with general library statistics. But that's okay. And if anybody gives you a hard time about that, you can tell them it's on a slide, so it's official. What we're doing is the best we can to explain what we're seeing and not drive ourselves crazy trying to allow for every single thing. So with all of that in mind, how do we move on to choosing our metrics? Now, I know Molly is going to go into very specifics for each different platform, but I think there are sort of 4 broad categories that you can look on, and maybe a 5th, we'll see. The first one is followers, and that one's easy, right? That's the number of people following your Facebook account, following your Twitter account, anything like that. The next is reach, and this is called different things on different platforms, but it boils down to how many people are seeing your content, how many unique people, that's the key. Now impressions, and again, this is called different things in different places. Impressions are often, are how many times your content is displayed. So the difference between impressions and reach is that reach is unique people and impressions is overall. So one person may see the same piece of content, the same post several times, or the same ad several times, and that is what your impressions number is going to be. And then the last thing of these four is engagement. So how many times do people interact with your content? You know, it's those hearts on Instagram, it's retweeting, liking things on Facebook, or that smiley face that's all angry, which we hate to see. But if people are sending you messages and you're answering them, all that kind of stuff is engagement. And there is a fifth metric I would encourage you to think about. Again, that's I think is often overlooked, and that's activity metrics. So what are you up to? Now, if you're trying to communicate the worth of what you're doing on social media, this is something that can really help you communicate that to your supervisors. So how many times did you personally post, tweet, pin, snap, whatever it is, in a given period? What's your average response time to questions on Facebook? Those are all really valid measurements that you can use to talk to your supervisors or administration about your performance and what the work going into what you're doing, because we don't just grow followers overnight. We have to work for it, and we need to be able to express the work that we're doing so that people recognize it. You should also be thinking about time frame whenever you're coming up with these sort of metrics that you're looking at. Are you looking at information about an individual post, or are you looking at something year over year? Individual posts aren't going to tell you much about your follower growth, but if you're looking month to month or year to year, you can kind of get a lot more information that way. So if you specify the time frame at the outset, it can really provide focus, clear starting and ending points so you know very specifically what you're measuring. And not every measurement makes sense for all time frames. So just keep that in mind as you're sort of starting to build your catalog of analytics that you're looking at. And then the last thing I think is really important to do is benchmarking. So this is comparing yourself versus yourself, or yourself versus others. And it really is what gives you the context as you're doing this. So it's really easy to get caught up, and I'm speaking definitely about myself in the day-to-day, like how is my post doing today? Are people liking this cat video I shared? Are they sharing it? All that kind of thing. But really, you know, a couple of years in, it's important to know over time if you're improving what you're doing. So, and you can also look at other libraries around you. That's a Facebook feature, which is pretty cool. But it's just kind of a good thing to keep in mind. So how might this look when you bring it all together? Let's just give you a couple of quick examples. So you may be saying to yourself, I want to reach more people in my community. So how do analytics support that goal? Well, you could look at number of followers. That's a pretty good proxy to how many people you're reaching. You may be looking at that month to month, year to year, growth over time. And the aim is to be able to say something like, this year we gained 500 followers, or this account has had a 50% increase in followers over the past 6 months. That is a lot easier to express to other people or to yourself in goal tracking than like a giant list of growth over time. Your boss may want to know, or rather might be saying, we want to increase awareness of our library's collections. Well, it's cool if you want to add the social media platform, but sort of what's in it for the library? How do we get the word out to more people about our events or things like that? Some metrics you might consider for this: impressions, engagement, your personal activity, and this may be something you look at in the shorter term or even on individual posts. So you want to be able to say something like, we scheduled 10 tweets about our new database this week and they were retweeted 27 times, or I created a post featuring this aspect of our collection and this many people actually clicked through to view it. These are numbers that are very concrete and easy to explain to other people. And they're actually really easy to find. This is from Facebook. I just pulled a couple of screenshots. So you can see there's link clicks. It tells you, ooh, this is a really fat marker. Well, that's okay. Link clicks. This is a tweet, and it tells you right at the bottom how many people retweeted it, how many people liked it. And you'll find those kinds of metrics on several different, or on every different platform. They just may say something different. And then one last scenario here, your administrator might be saying, I'm not sure I see the point of spending time on social media. Now, I have to say I've been very lucky to work with an organization that is like all in. At the city level, at the department level, we recognize that this is something that we need to do. But that's not the case everywhere. But I think you can build a good case for yourself using a lot of this different information. So in this case, you might look at reach and your activity. And this might be a point in time. So I think one of the things that really speaks to people is the number of questions that you're being able to answer on social media. So we count the number of reference interactions we have at the desk. We count maybe the number of phone calls we have, maybe not, but those are all sorts of things that have easy analogs on social media. So I answered 12 questions. That's 12 people that otherwise might have been in the door. Well, that's not a good example. That's not quite what I meant to say, but anyway. Or in the last 7 days, our Facebook content reached, 2,500 people. That's a pretty powerful number. And to put that in context, you can look at maybe how many people visited your different branches. How do they compare? It's not a one-to-one comparison, but all those things can help contextualize. In Facebook, reach looks kind of like this. So you click on your Insights tab, and then reach is down here. And you can see for this time frame, our content reached 21,000 people. That's kind of a cool number to be able to pull out, and numbers like that mean something. And then you might be thinking to yourself, I can't tell if anything I'm doing is working. That's, I think, what brings a lot of us to analytics or to wanting to select metrics. We want to know, because we're putting our time into it, if it's paying off. And there are some really nice ways to do this. So now we're going to talk about math. And again, I don't want you to panic. If I can do it, anybody can do it. But there are a few things that I'd like to share, and let's see here. So in this kind of limited time frame, I'm not going to have a chance to walk through every single thing with Excel. We're not doing anything fancy. There's just a few, where the tabs are, that kind of thing, that I won't be able to show you because I don't have Excel up live. I love GCF Learn Free to look at, and I look at it even as a frequent user of Excel to remind myself how to do little things all the time. Microsoft support files are actually pretty good, and then if you have access to lynda.com, there are some really cool training tutorials that you can even use. And as Jennifer noted, they are available, or they are linked from the event page if you need to find them later. So exporting information is pretty easy on most platforms. So on this, I've pulled out where to find the Export Data tab for Twitter, Pinterest, and Facebook. Instagram, unfortunately, does not have this option currently. With Instagram, you can only look at analytics in the app itself, and you can't get data out of that to work with. In Facebook, you can, and it looks like, let's see here. Oh, so Facebook, you click down here, Export Data, and then you get this window. And you can see a couple of things. We've got page data, post data that we can look at, video data if you're doing a lot of video. It defaults to a date range, and one of the reasons I would encourage you to export data pretty regularly is that you can only do up to 180 days at a time, whether you're viewing insights in the app or in Facebook itself or exporting. And if you've got years worth of Facebook data, which, Facebook is like, what, 10, 13, 14 years old now, and if you started a while ago, you might have that, and it might be worth looking back at. And you can do Excel or CSV. Excel is just easy. But here is where you might get tripped up. This is a trap. Do not export all page data, because when you do, it's going to look something like this. But then it gets worse. And I think this is 30 columns. I guarantee you will not want to look at the information in every one of these columns. So instead, what you can do is set up a little custom export layout for yourself. So when you do that, just make sure you give it a name. So when you click on all page data, the little caret next to it, this will open up and you can make a new custom layout. that window looks like this, and all of those columns, that's what these checkboxes are. So you can decide the couple of things that you are really interested in learning about. Check those boxes. You can do multiple sheets if you want. I'm not that fancy. And then just here's where you would name it. And as long as you name it, it'll save it, and then every quarter you can go in and export the same data every time, which makes it really easy once you get it into a spreadsheet as well. When it comes out, it looks like this. So these are a few of the ones I've chosen. I think I probably do 5 or 6 regularly. And this is actually a good time to mention, I created a practice Excel workbook that you can download from the event page that has all of this in it. So you can click around, you can sub out your own data. It has step-by-step instructions for some of this. So because I can't show you live, you'll be able to see it in there. And I've spent a little more time writing things out, hopefully to make it easier for everybody, because I know sometimes that's hard on these cells. But so these are the things that I just chose for this example here. Lifetime total likes, so that's growth over time. Daily page engaged users, and daily total reach. And it's much better. So how do you use this information to judge performance over time? So if you select some of this data in these columns and put it into a graph, which the steps for that are in the workbook, it's going to look something like this. And this is really basic, right? We've got our dates along the bottom. We have our, and it's plotted for each of these days, the number of people who engaged with our page. And you can see the definition includes any click or story created. But this doesn't tell us a whole lot, right? And what we really want to know is my daily engagement rate getting better over time? Now, okay, so this is January 2016. This is December 2017. I mean, I've got some crazy spikes. I might want to look and go back and figure out what I posted on those days. This seems like it's edging up, but it's really hard to tell, I think. So Excel trick number 1, add a trend line. So you've got your chart, you click in your chart, add a chart element, and add a trend line, and it comes out looking like this. Now, I changed the thickness of this line just to make it easier to see. You can change colors and everything in Excel. This orange dotted line here is the trend of this data over time, and it's rising. So what this tells me at a glance is that my average daily page engaged users are increasing over time. So what I'm doing is getting more effective. If it was falling, no. And if it's flat, then there's no change. So that might be something that you'd want to set in your goal for the next year. I want to improve overall my daily page engaged users. You can also use Excel to project follower growth. So this is the same where you make a chart. Here's my chart of Excel growth over time for, I think I put in 2 years of fake data. Or it's not fake, but it's not the dates it says it is, but you'll see it when you're in the workbook. So I can kind of guess where this is going. I thought that was a pretty good line there, but it doesn't really tell me as much as I might want. So what I can do is, using that same trend line feature, add in a linear forecast trend line is what it's called, and I get another little dotted line here. And this kind of draws me a picture of, if I continue to grow at the same rate, here is approximately where I will expect to be on this date. So I've got my dates in the future. This is 2018. And I just drew this yellow line up top so you could kind of eyeball it. And eyeballing it a lot of times is good enough, right? So this is going to be, I don't know, 2,700 or 2,600. That was a bad guess on my part. But, you know, so that's something you can use to benchmark yourself and to look at goals for the future. So I can expect that by the end, or by January 2018, I'll be at about 2,700 followers. But if I could keep doing what I'm doing, that's the key. So if I keep growing at what I'm, or at how I'm growing now, that's where I can expect to be. But I want to do better than that. I want to improve beyond that projection. So I'll add maybe 10% to that number and come up with a kind of a goal that's feasible for my growth over the next year. If you want to get a little bit in the weeds, you can also use the slope formula, going way back in math, to find the specific number if you want to do that, if your performance holds steady. The steps for that are in the workbook. I won't make you listen to me explain slope. The last thing you can do is use Excel, and I find this very useful at the end of the year to quickly identify top performers in a large data set using conditional formatting. And so this is one of those things that sounds a lot fancier than it is. Basically, you tell Excel to tell you, or to pick out the things that are doing the best. So this is an export I did in the same way I did the page data of posts. So this as the post message, you can see the type of post it was, when it was posted, and then these are just a couple of KPIs I selected, so real easy. How many people did it reach, lifetime total impressions, and engaged users. Basically what you do is select the range of data, so you'd select your column, and you go to the Home tab. I'm sorry, I didn't take a screenshot of it. Right on the Home tab in the ribbon, there's a conditional formatting picture, and I screenshotted this in the workbook. And you create a rule that tells Excel to highlight your data and do something with it. So icons, you can do that. You can tell it to highlight. This is the top 10% of performers in that range. There's a lot of different options. The defaults even are very simple. So everything that's in the top, or that performs better than 90% or more in this range of information, let's make it green. And so you can get something that looks like this. Now, I did two different rules, one here for icons and one here just for coloring the top 10 to show you what it will look like with different things. You'd probably want to use the same thing in every column. But what might you learn from this kind of information? So this I just picked at random, and I was kind of asking myself this question to make sure it was valid to share with you. So this is a post here about an event we did, Halloween, like a Halloween parade for toddlers, and it is the cutest thing of all time. So my total reach and impressions are really good. This is, you know, it's not in the top, but it's not bad. But later we posted for that same event a photo gallery, and a lot of people engaged with it. So my guess is with this event that a lot of people attended because a lot of people were interested, but then they also clicked through this gallery to find pictures of themselves. So maybe that's a lesson in the future. I want to do that for events that have cute pictures of kids because everybody likes to see them. This one here, it was an event with a photo that we used, and for some reason it performed really well. So I'd want to go back and look at that and see what made this do as well as it did. And then these were not great. These were bottom 10% performers. Why? You know, what was different about these than other posts? You know, that's kind of the context I would want to go back and look at. So when you're doing all this, I know Excel can be, it looks a lot more complicated than it is, and I hope you find the instructions that I provided useful, because you can do this afternoon if you wanted. The important thing to remember is to think interpretation, not calculation. You don't have to know how to find a trend line. You just need to know what it looks like when you create one, and then be able to ask, what's the broader context? So if I'm doing this, why am I getting better? Or what is it about what I'm doing that is trending me upwards, I guess is a better way to put it. So last thing, because I know I'm just about out of time, but I think we have time for questions. Some resources. I recently went to the Library Marketing and Communications Conference. I think there were only one or two other people from Arizona there. It was fabulous, and there's people from all levels. And if you want to get a little more information about it, I highly recommend going to their Facebook page, and they have a discussion group. It's a lot like the Libraries and Social Media group and the AZLA think tank, ALA think tank, but it's specifically marketing. A oh, here, libraries and social media, Charisse. That is a really great group to join too. A lot of experts on there. These digital marketing courses on Coursera are free and open to anybody. They may be more than you want to spend time doing, and that's fine, but I found them very interesting. Lynda.com is a great resource, and then at the bottom here, Adweek, Fast Company, and It's Nice That are just websites. They talk about design, they talk about advertising, all sorts of business trends, and I just find them helpful sort of in the sense of staying more broadly connected to things. And that's it. So please feel welcome to contact me. I am always happy to talk shop. You can also reach me on LinkedIn or follow our library's social media. You know, if you get into that workbook and you have a question, I hope you'll email me or call me. It's really not that bad to use Excel, and it's something you can very easily do. So Jennifer, do we do questions?
Yeah, we can pause for a few questions. If you have other questions, folks, go ahead and post those in. There was a kind of an overarching question early on, and I know that it's hopefully getting answered as we move through the content, but I think the trick for people knowing, of course, that the time that it takes even just to manage their social media is already huge, so obviously the time that it takes to capture and interpret data, and also the question around, you know, its reliability. I think your last comment really points to that, you know, it may not be pure science, but I think it's going to help inform you. But as you decide, back to the question around, you know, getting buy-in and being able to demonstrate to your leadership, what are some of the things that you choose that you know are reliable and that really do help tell your story?
So I think that goes back to, it really depends on who I'm talking to. So I know maybe a year ago or a couple of years, some of our kind of city officials like wanted more social media. And kind of listening to them talk about what they were wanting, it was very apparent that what they wanted to see was much larger growth on social media. They wanted to be able to, you know, log into our accounts or look at our accounts and see a lot of people following. And that's valid. I mean, it doesn't, again, nothing gives you the entire picture, but if that's what they're looking for, then that's the number now I know to use moving forward. For myself, I like to look at engagement and reach just to make sure that we're moving in the right way. But it really, as long as you've got a finger on the general things, I think you can worry a little less about the day-to-day fluctuation, and I've found that very useful. Just as one last little example, on our Twitter account, we recently had a month that it followed 2 really good months for us. So it looked pretty abysmal, like performance-wise, when we were just in the analytics.twitter.com. But I was able to go back and sort of look month to month, and really, in the greater scheme of a year or two of Twitter, it wasn't so far out of the ordinary. So, like, we want to do better, of course, but it's also nice to know that we didn't just, like, totally batch it. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I don't know if that answered or not.
Definitely. No, that's really helpful. In terms of connecting the social media analytics to kind of actual library usage, I know you touched on that a little bit. Do you then work with others on your team to maybe compare some of, whether it's circulation or reference data, you know, reference analytics? Do you do that kind of comparison to make that link to library usage and library materials?
Yeah, so that's a good question, and I know from that conference I was just at, some libraries do a lot more of that. I think we mostly aim to make sure that we are promoting our collections, services, things like that. I don't think with the resources we have that we would be able to show in a concrete way that we move the needle on circulation or something like that, because we're a huge service population, and like this is just part of my job. Like my job isn't social media, it's to be a librarian and a manager, and make sure that the website is running and there's content on it. And then also, if I can make sure that we've got some good numbers, like that's great. But what I would say is there are ways, if you're spending money, especially like we pay for Facebook ads. The other document I created and shared along with the Excel workbook is sort of a case study for how we track. So we ask program attendees where they hear about their program. And so we kind of have a good number of, like a percentage of how many of those people heard about it on, say, Facebook. And we can then work out, well, for every $1 that we put into Facebook advertising, kind of approximately how many people are we seeing come to our programs that heard about it on Facebook. So that's a really nice, kind of ROI measurement. I saw a question flash up about seeing if links go to the website or something like that. I closed chat because it was too much. And there are, with Google Analytics, it's a little more advanced. But I'll throw that out there if you want to look into it yourself, yeah.
Yeah, I think, so there were a couple other questions. You had mentioned that Instagram's analytics aren't so great. That sounds like other people have discovered that as well.
You can't export them, and it doesn't offer you as much, yeah.
Okay.
But that may come with time.
Yeah. And it sounds like some folks have noticed with Facebook that they were having, let's see, now I just lost that, having issues sorting insights by other, I think there's only one way to sort it. So it sounds like you could import, your import process would pull data. It says, I used to be able to sort Facebook Insights by reach and or engagement. Now my only option is by date. So would they be able to sort by reach and engagement if they selected those options in the download?
Yeah, so if you exported that into Excel and formatted it as a table, or you wouldn't even need to do that necessarily, but you could then sort by any of those columns.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and then I love to see the conversation. Folks are debating which platforms to use. I know that a lot of that was touched on in the first webinar, so be sure to check out the first webinar to think about that as well. And there was a question about monthly stats. Let's see, I wish I knew what metrics to be looking at for monthly stats in Facebook. Do I just add up daily engaged, or is that data that they could pull from the report?
You have some flexibility natively in the Facebook Insights panel, but you can also just pull a month's worth of data. So you can display a month's worth of data in Insights and just look at that, or you could export a month and sort of look at it monthly. And I think Molly is going to talk a little bit more about the different types of things you can get out of Facebook too.
Great, yeah, and I know with any analytics, the time to remember, as you mentioned, the 18-month time frame, I know that sometimes I lose data because, I forgot to do this for the 3-month period that it's available. So I know you kind of have to schedule that in if you want to be doing that over a period of time, and then maybe, deciding, well, look at how much time you put into it, how much information is it giving you, is it better to use the built-in tools and not spend them? So I think you kind of individually need to decide based on how much time it took over a period of time. So obviously something to play with as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Excellent. Well, keep questions coming, and we'll be sure and circle back with Sharice at the end as well. Before we transition over to Molly, I just wanted to mention, I mentioned this in the first session, that we are watching what you all do on your social media, especially on Facebook. We've been doing a series called the Social Library Series, and we pull examples that you all are sharing that we notice, and also often notice high traffic to your posts. And we've collected those, and we actually have a spreadsheet. Speaking of spreadsheets, where we collect them by topic and by state and by library. So you can sort that spreadsheet and actually look and see if you have specific aspects of your programming that you're trying to highlight. You could even find examples of that and see how other libraries are doing that. So that's one resource that we collect for you all. And then I also wanted to highlight the Geek the Library Facebook page. I'm sorry, I should have been on here to tell you, here's an example of the topics that get sorted. Here are some of the top examples. Teens, there's always a lot of teen examples on your Facebook pages, and then you can see we collect them all, and you can take quick looks at those as they come out. And then the Geek the Library Facebook page began when we were doing the Geek the Library project, and it's continued to grow with not just library staff, but lots of fans of libraries. So it's something that we encourage you to feel free to take any of the posts, use them. This is something that we love to do and see the community grow, and these are your people as well, so feel free to connect and repurpose any of those as well. And again, we love sharing what you're doing as well. All right, well, let's shift gears, and Molly's going to take us into some deeper dives, and let me get the ball passed on over to you, Molly, and thank you so much for being here. And Molly, oh, are you there? I'm not hearing your audio. Oh, shoot, I'm not hearing you still. I can see the little... There you go. I'm hearing you now.
Okay, great. So I'm really excited to be here and talk about social media analytics. I'm the social media manager at TechSoup, so I am constantly thinking about social media, and I also manage the TechSoup for Libraries channel. So check out both of our social media channels, and at the end I'll have my contact information, so if you have more questions you can also tweet me or email me. But all day I'm thinking about social media. I'm not always doing it for libraries, but I am excited to share my expertise with you today. So the first thing that I want to go over is without a strategy, content is just stuff, and the world has enough stuff. And I love this quote because I think that it's very true. On social media and in the world right now, there's just so much content flowing that without any type of strategy, you're really just putting things out there with maybe no one's going to pay attention because there's so much stuff being thrown at them every single day. And as more and more people join social media, it's just going to continue. So having relevance and having a strategy is really important. So today we're going to go over understanding key metrics. So I'm going to provide some key metrics that I think you could start measuring right away. So I saw some of you were asking kind of, you know, what are some of those things that I should be measuring every month? And so I have some ideas there. We're going to pick some channels, so going back over kind of what you maybe learned in the first one, but based on kind of your goals and stuff, which channels really make sense for you. We're going to talk about setting goals, so really figuring out what you want to achieve on social and how to do that. We're going to establish social media voice, so figuring out how to pick a voice for your social media channels and stick to that voice so your whole team and staff is on board. So some of this might be similar to what Sharice went over. She did a really great job, but if I'll try to not keep it too repetitive, but it will also kind of help drill down. But all the stuff I'm going to be going over today is also available on the Social Media Starter Kit. I'm kind of expanding on this, but a lot of stuff will be here, so feel free to download that and go back and reference. So first, let's talk about metrics. So the top social media platforms that we have gathered from our survey was that Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram were the top ones libraries were using. So I'm going to be touching mostly on those today. But I'll also be talking about LinkedIn because that's what we use at TechSoup as well. And I think it's really important to just focus on the platforms that are going to be the most effective and that you have staffing capacity for. Don't just try to do all the social media platforms. It's really not a good strategy. So choose the ones that you really have time for and do your best off those. So social media analytics. So social media analytics, we went over this, but basically it refers to the approach of collecting data from social media sites and blogs and then evaluating that data to make business decisions. So it's really like everything, taking an overview of all the things that are happening on your social media and how you're doing. So to measure your social media activity, you look at specific metrics. So we're going to go over some of those specific metrics now. So Charisse kind of went over some of this, but I'm just going to go over it again really quickly. So for Facebook Insights, you can download specific things. So you can only download you can download a lot, page, post, and video data, and you can also do custom reports. And then in the Insights, there's a ton of analytics. So if that is overwhelming, you can really just grab specific data points from the dashboard. Instagram, as we went over again, it's just you only view metrics on the app unless you use an ad. So if you are doing an ad, you do it through Facebook, and you can actually see more metrics there from that specific ad within the Facebook dashboard. But in Instagram, there is quite a bit of metrics that you can pull, but you just can't download it. So you really need to be on top of it. And the time frame, a lot of times will be within 7 days for how many impressions, reach, and views you get. So you have to, that would be something you have to be on top of if you're trying to track that. Twitter analytics, you can download all your tweets data, and then within the dashboard, there's a lot as well. For LinkedIn, you can also download a lot. You can download your visitor data, your updates, and your follower data. So for Facebook Insights, page likes, as we went over, that's a big one. That's your growth. Post impressions, we went over that again, so I'm just going to go through some of these quickly. So interactions is you would gather the total of your total reactions, comments, and shares. Page views, so how many times people are coming to your profile and it's being viewed. Post reach, so the total number of people who see your page post. Post clicks, so the number of clicks on that specific post. Video views, if you are doing video, this can be really helpful to track kind of who saw it beyond 3 seconds. That's how they track it. And then again, if you go into the post section, you can really sort by different types of things, but it is still sorting by the date. So I saw somebody mentioned that in the comments, and yes, it's sorting by date, but you can still kind of scroll through and see. And then of course, all of this can be downloaded. So these are some key things that you might want to think about measuring. You might not measure all of these, but these are just a few that you might think about measuring. So again, with Instagram, you can do total followers, impressions, interactions, profile views, and reach, and then total performing posts. This you can see pretty easily on the right-hand side, or on the right kind of mobile view there. You can see that we have a bunch of those, and you can really sort those by different things, and you can go back a year. For Twitter analytics, there's a lot of great information that you can see just within the platform, so it's pretty similar. For interactions, it's going to be your replies, retweets, and likes. And for your impressions, it's the same. Total mentions would be the total times you were mentioned, so somebody doing at your profile name. Profile visits is the total times users have visited your profile. So that's really great because you can see how many people are actually coming to your profile. The top performing tweets is very similar to Facebook with the posts. And you can sort this by engagement and engagement rate. And engagement as well is going to be the total number of times a user interacted with a tweet. And so you can see a breakdown per month. And I really like these right here. Even if you just start tracking these, I think they're really easy, and you don't even necessarily need to download and do Excel. But you can download all the tweet data. So if you're wondering, can I download? Yes, but it's just your tweet data, and you can't download demographics or anything.
Molly, I'm going to just jump in really quick and ask you a question about Twitter and Instagram, actually. Okay. Does the Twitter export have data from the beginning of the account, or does that expire at some point and only a certain amount of data is available?
You can go pretty far back. I'm not exactly sure how far back. We download ours monthly, but you can go pretty far back, and you can set custom dates. So I'm not entirely sure if you can go back beyond a year, but I think you should be able to. And you,
Okay.
as you scroll through, like you go down, I just compared last November to this November because I noticed it's down during, the holiday time. So you can see that all within the platform. So I assume you could go back beyond that.
Okay. And then I know this came up earlier, but can you see Instagram, can you download Instagram analytics without a business account, or is that, do you know?
So you have to set up a business account to see analytics. So if you haven't done that yet, just go into your profile and click the kind of settings icon and switch to a business profile, and it should be connected to your Facebook page. That's the best way to do it, because then you'll get notified of your updates in your Facebook page, your business page, and then you cannot download now, but this is definitely coming in the future, I'm sure. So it's good to just go into the platform and pick a few things you want to track.
Okay. And I'm just going to confirm, your audio is on your headset now, correct? Because I'm hearing a little loop. I don't know if your computer's audio is also coming out.
Oh, okay. Does it sound better now?
Let me hear. Yeah, if I'm talking, well, I'm still hearing myself. That's okay. I'll stop talking.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so for LinkedIn, there's a bunch of metrics as well. So you can track kind of your total followers or total people that have been liking your page. The interactions is likes, comments, and shares. Top updates is going to be sorted by impressions, clicks, or click-through rate, social actions, and engagement. And this is all downloadable as well, but you can also see it within your page. And so these are just some things that I would think of measuring and keeping track of monthly. So just going back to the engagement rate, because each platform kind of does this differently. For Facebook, it's going to be your likes plus your shares and your comments and clicks divided by your post reach, and then times 100. And they do this for you, so you really don't need to worry at all about how to calculate this. But just so you're aware, this is what it is. And then with Twitter, it's clicks, retweets, replies, followers, and likes divided by your total impressions times 100. So when you're seeing that number, just keep in mind you want to have a high engagement rate. And so for Instagram, the engagement rate is actually considered higher than the other platforms. So for Facebook, it's pretty low, and Twitter is also low. So if you're achieving above these kind of averages across all industries, you're doing pretty well. We've seen one time on Facebook, we got like a 14% engagement rate, and that was like totally abnormal. And then like even 5% would be high for us. So if you're getting a lot of times like in a 1 or higher, then you're doing pretty well. So you can try to track that if you're interested in that kind of metric. So setting goals. So when we think about setting goals, David Van Roy says, a goal is better than no goal, a specific goal is better than a broad goal, and a hard and specific goal is better than an easy goal. And I really like this kind of idea, and he's a psychologist that came up with a really simple framework for goal setting, and I think that there's just a lot of things to think about when you're setting a goal, and you really want to be specific. So SMART goals is a thing that was invented in the 80s, and you probably heard of it before, but you can apply this to social media. So when you think of a specific goal, we're going to talk about, do you want to get 50 followers or 500 followers or 5,000 followers? So you get really specific, what social network platform do you want to do that on? So having a goal, so I want you to think about these goals as we go through them. Like as we talk about the goals, think if they are going to be SMART goals. So measurable goal, is going to be something that you can measure. So obviously this is going to be something that's concrete and identifies your progress, where you can really see whether your efforts are working or not. So it's a number, it's something you can measure. Attainable, is it something that you're able to reach? So have you achieved this on your platforms in the past, and is it a goal that you know you can reach? Do you have the staff and time and resources to really achieve this goal? So that's some questions to ask when you're thinking about goal setting. is it relevant or realistic? So I use both. So make sure your goal is like relevant to your success in your library. So does it even make sense to be, trying to achieve this goal? Is this really what your library's marketing missions are aligned to? And make sure it's realistic, because you can really map it out and you're able to get it done. So if it's a goal that you want to set, do you know exactly how you're going to get there and achieve that? And then time bound, make sure that has a specific time. So it's really important to make sure that you have a time frame when you're setting these goals, and you know exactly when you're going to have that deadline, so you can really meet the deadline. So again, just going back and kind of thinking about what is your library using social media for, just kind of think about that, and then we're going to go through and we'll go back and talk about setting those goals. So first I want to say is like, where is your target audience on social? So before you choose a platform, you kind of need to think, does it make sense for me to be on this platform? So for Facebook, you can see the age differences. There's so many people on Facebook, so this is a really great one for libraries to be on, I think, because it reaches a lot of people. And if you're in a rural area, this really makes sense for you to be on there as well, because that's the highest percentage of people in rural areas. If you have a younger demographic that you're trying to reach, I think Instagram is really great for that. And if you have a lot of content that you can contribute to that, you can tell that there's a younger crowd. It's all photos, so you're able to make that happen. And then with Twitter, I think that there's kind of an interesting demographic there as well. So these three is what I personally recommend jumping in if you're going to try at least one, maybe Facebook, but if you have the capacity to do all three of these, I think that they would be great to engage in. And then within Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, you can go back and see which demographics you're reaching. So if you, want to be reaching people in, your city, are you reaching people in your city? You can actually see the city that you're trying to reach. You can see the age range that you're trying to reach. Is it more women than men? Sometimes you can see ours is a little bit heavy with women on Instagram, so we can try to target men. So you can kind of continue to look at these. You might not necessarily need to record these, but you at least want to look at these and kind of maybe set a goal to change that demographic to be more of your target audience. So now we're going to go through an example of a specific social media goals. So if we're talking about the types of social media goals you want to set, there's a few that we have established, and there's a link actually that we got a lot of these resources from, so you can check out the link as well. But so for brand awareness, you want to think, this is the most common goal that people use to set social media goals, and that's because the average person spends nearly 2 hours on social media every day, so it makes sense that you would want to expose your brand there. So if that's one of the goals that you want to set, this means you just want more people to know about your organization on social. There's also a goal for community engagement. So do you want to build a community? Do you want to have a Facebook group that you can really engage and share information and share books? Do you want to have a Slack channel? Do you want to have a LinkedIn group? Then there's content distribution. So for this one, is there a specific type of content you want to be pushing out? Maybe it's library information, or you want to be kind of leading the path of your neighborhood news. Then lead generation. This one is, do you want to bring specific, gather specific information from people, emails to grow your email list? Or do you want to generate leads for your library, or you get people to join your specific new program? And so there's a different ways to track those. So that would be, tracking emails or downloads for a specific thing. Customer support, this one's really big. A lot of people are starting to move more and more towards wanting better customer support on Facebook and Twitter, and at TechSoup we've seen that increase a lot. So you have to say, is that a goal we want to set? We really want to allow people to ask us questions on here, and to track that, you might track your average response time on Facebook, or you might track the number of questions you got on Twitter, or Facebook, or Instagram, or across all platforms, or customer satisfaction scores, and set up some metrics for that. And then media and press. Do you want to try to get PR or engage with journalists? So you're maybe try to reach out to people who are journalists on social, or you're going to try to engage with different influencers who might help you get onto blogs. And then it could also mean tracking your appearance across social. So a lot of people talking about you. Is it appearing as if you have kind of a larger presence there? And then fundraising and revenue, another great goal, which, do you want to turn your followers into supporters who are actually paying for things? So maybe you set up social ads and you track signups for something, or you are trying to get people to actually come into your library and sign up, so you can kind of track that way. And then social listening, this one's kind of the process of tracking and analyzing what is being said about your organization, or using keywords and trying to follow specific things. So if you really wanted to track librarians or libchat or a specific hashtag or URL, using specific keywords and kind of staying on top of the industry trends. So that could be kind of a goal as well, and figuring that one out. So like I said, there's more information on all of these, so you can use that link there. So before you pick one of those goals, you're going to pick one of your channels. So this is a great quote from the New York Public Library. We pick platforms based on whether it works with the type of content we want to put out, and whether it meets our goals of brand awareness, increased traffic, and creating community. And I think this is really important because if you don't have enough content to support the social media platform, like Instagram is very picture heavy. If you don't have that kind of content and you don't really know how to create that, it might not be worth your time. So really think about it. Do you have, are you going to be able to have blogs that support specific content goals, or are you going to really have the time? So think about that before you just jump on a platform. So here's some platforms, and this is in the social media starter kit, so you can go back. But basically, each platform, as we discussed, is going to have kind of different goals. So based on what goal you have, just go back and check and make sure that you have selected the correct platform. Snapchat is a little bit less used these days, I would say. Now that there's Instagram stories, you don't really need to spend too much time there. But if you already have a community there, or you have a really younger population, you might still consider it, but something to keep in mind. So we're going to go through a goal example. So if you're trying to achieve community engagement, some metrics to track that would be post engagement, post impressions, reactions, likes, shares, or retweets. If you have a Facebook group, it might be the number of posts, the user growth, or the likes on engagement of posts. If you want to host a Twitter chat, you would track the total tweets and mentions of a hashtag during the event. So these are just some examples. If this is one of your goals, you don't have to choose all these. These are just some metrics to think about. So if I were to say community engagement is a goal, we want to run a social contest at our library. And then you would go through the SMART goals, and you would get really specific. So we want to get 50 patrons to participate in your book selfie contest on Instagram and Twitter using the hashtag BookFaceFriday. And I think that this is an already popular one, so that's why I used it. So you want to get 20 geo-tagged posts on Instagram with your location. So you want people to use Instagram and Twitter for this. And you want 20 people, you want 50 posts total, and you want 20 people to actually check in, make their location on Instagram with the post of your library. So it's measurable. You can track the hashtag on Instagram and Twitter. You can use this platform Keyhole, or manually track natively with an Excel spreadsheet, and I'll show you how on the next page. And you can track the geolocations on Instagram of the total count. That's a manual process. We'll go through that again on the next page. So yes, it's measurable. It's achievable, yes, because it's measurable, and we have the resources at our library. And is it realistic? Well, if we encourage the contest throughout the library, We're going to have posts up everywhere. We're going to post weekly on Twitter and Instagram about the contest, so we're really going to push this thing. We're going to encourage users on Twitter and Instagram to participate in the campaign, so that it makes it a little bit more realistic, and we do have the staffing. And we're going to have a 2-month time limit on achieving this goal. So here is kind of the next page of, going back and tracking those things. So for tracking on Twitter, we're going to go to the latest tab, not the top tab where that arrow is. And you can track the latest post. If you want to manually do this, you're just going to have to actually count manually. And I have done this before. It takes a long time, but if you're trying to do this, you can maybe either do it daily or weekly. And then if you want to do the location, you would, like I said, that's a manual process in Instagram. You can do it on the web, though. You don't have to be actually on the app. And then for Instagram, it will actually tally the total hashtags, so you can just see that total there. But if you're trying to do a specific time frame, that's why it's important to kind of look at the hashtag beforehand and make sure that you know if it's being used heavily or not, and then you can kind of subtract if it's been used a lot before. And then Keyhole is as a platform you can pay for. It can be kind of expensive, but if you're trying to run a really big campaign, it's one that does all of this for you. So we're going to go through one more example of a goal. So if your goal is lead generation. So some metrics to track would be emails and contact information, the downloads, participation or signups, clicks on lead or lead generation content. So that would be if somebody clicked to the page or any post that was relating to something that you were trying to drive signups on. And then like the total conversions from the lead. So did they actually come into your library? Did they actually participate in an event or something like that? So an example is increase emails obtained from downloading your free emergency preparedness checklist. So let's say you're partnering with the Red Cross and you have on your website a download for this emergency preparedness kit or checklist. So your goal on social is to, specifically, it's going to be to increase emails collected by 40 via social. So you want to get 40 people to sign up from social to download this link. And you want to create 4 posts on Facebook and 7 on Twitter with a call to action asking people to download this kit, and it links to the checklist. So it's measurable because you're going to track the clicks to download the URL on Twitter and Facebook. So that's actually done in the app, and I'll show you on the next page. And you can track the referrals upon downloading the checklist and ask if they heard about it on social. So for this one, you'd have to figure out how you would check it once they get to the download page. You could use Google Analytics, or maybe you would use, it would be like a sign-up form on the download page where you actually ask them how they found it. Is it achievable? Yes. Is it realistic? If you create compelling graphics to supplement the checklist on social so people don't get bored of it, you're going to create content about the emergency preparedness that will kind of spark interest in your followers. You'll identify 40 Twitter users. This is kind of a pro tip. You're going to identify 40 people that might be interested, and you're going to actually post an image on Twitter and tag those 40 people. And you can only do it 10 at a time. So if you 10 people at a time, you can post an image and tag them. It's kind of a pro tip to get your posts more visibility. So you're going to do all of those things to make it realistic. And then the time is 1 month. So here's how you can track website clicks. So on Twitter, you can click this kind of button where the first arrow is on the left-hand side, and then it opens up your analytics for that post, and you can see the link clicks. So for this post, we got 22 link clicks. So that's how many people clicked through to the actual article. So that's how we would track it. And then the same is for on the right-hand side on Facebook. You can see the link clicks, or you can track other clicks or whatever goal you're trying to reach. And then if you're interested in Google Analytics, we actually do have a webinar on how to use it coming up soon, but there is an article right away if you're trying to track URLs right there. So going back, so before you really, so those are examples of goals, but you really have to think, like, what kind of content can your library create and support for your goals? So think about these things on the right-hand side. There's some ideas of what types of content you might want to share, but you're not going to be able to do everything. So you really need to kind of think what is possible and then constantly rework your goals. And these goals are meant to be set for, we do a lot of our goals for like a quarter. So it's a short amount of time, and you really need to constantly update and go back and rethink these and make sure that you have enough resources and capacity and content to really achieve these goals. So really quickly, I just wanted to go through and talk about voice. This is something just to add to kind of your strategy document. And just kind of briefly, because I know I'm running out of time here, but just kind of thinking of, how do you present yourself? If you have multiple people on social media that are helping manage your platforms, kind of just think about your character persona. First determine who your target audience is and kind of who you're talking to on there, and are you a trustworthy, approachable, welcoming, uplifting, or knowledgeable, well-informed? Like, which one of these are you? What's your tone so you keep it really consistent? Are you often funny, or in kind of your language and what you're using? Is that something that is appropriate for your brand language and something that your audience kind of cares about? So go through each one of these and figure out kind of what you're trying to represent on social media, and make sure everybody who's on your platforms is aware of this kind of language and tone and purpose and character, because it's going to be really important that you keep that consistent so people feel like they really understand and resonate with your brand. So for reporting, turn all of your goals into a social media strategy. So all the things I went over, essentially create a working document to record all of this, and put your goals, your voice, and your key metrics. And that way you kind of have this ongoing working document that you can reference. That's kind of your strategy document that you can tell your higher ups or whoever you need to tell about your progress and how you're working on social. And this is something, like I said, is a working document. So you should always be kind of reflecting and going back and changing and setting a time frame for when you're going to go back and rethink all of this. And so create a monthly report. So use some of the metrics that we mentioned, but really focus on your goals, and add your goal progress, and record month-over-month change. That's what we do at TechSoup. So you can show the percentage of increase, you can show the amount of new followers, whatever you're tracking. It's really great to show month-over-month change. And sometimes it might be a decrease. Like I said, this month in November, we have noticed a decline in certain areas, and that makes sense, but maybe you need to understand why that's happening. And if you're more aware of this data, you're going to actually be better at meeting your goals, because you're going to be constantly looking at this information. And keep it consistent. So obviously, if one month you're measuring followers, the next month make sure you measure followers. So each month just set the same exact metrics. And then establishing how are you managing your social media. Are you using the only native platforms, or are you using native and external platforms? So the native platforms is totally fine. If that's all you have capacity to do, you can, we showed you tons of tricks and there's templates on how to do all of that. But if you want to learn more about external platforms, there is some stuff that kind of automates this for you. So here is some examples of some kind of lower cost external platforms that you can use. This helps with publishing content, listening, analytics, and reporting. They kind of do that for you, so you don't have to worry too much about it. So Hootsuite, that's a really great one. It's pretty affordable, and I know a lot of people, we used to use that at TechSoup. There's a lot of great stuff there, and they have a whole analytics dashboard. So if all of this is too much for you, you might want to consider one of these. It really does help your workflow. But if it's not within your budget, again, you don't need to do it. And you can go back and reference this. And then external platforms, hashtag tracking, Keyhole, like I said, that's one that kind of is very specific and it's a little bit expensive. But hashtag tracking, when you're choosing a hashtag, that's a free platform. And that one's really cool because you can go and kind of see how popular a hashtag is. So if you're trying to pick a new hashtag that you don't want to be so well used because you want to just specifically use it for your library, you can check there. Or if you want to do that social listening, you can go back and use that. Sorry, that was Hashtagify. Hash tracking is another kind of like tracking tool, but all of these are great resources you can go look at. And TalkWalker, that's another kind of, if you want to track your mentions or brand or PR across every kind of platform. They do have free alerts for your brand, so you can go check that one out. And I know that was a lot of information, but I'm sure some of you might have some questions. And I originally did have some gifts in here, so that's why some of these images might be coming up randomly. But yeah, that was a lot of information. So if you have, after this, if I don't get to your questions today, feel free to tweet me or send me an email, and I'm happy to answer any of your questions.
Excellent. Thank you so much. There were some great questions. A couple different folks are curious in terms of measuring against other libraries. I think Charisse might have mentioned early on how to track in Facebook comparing with other libraries. But in terms of just in general as well, there was a great question. Michael, who works at a statewide level, is wondering, what are the best measurements for social media engagement for libraries and, looking at ways for libraries to kind of compare. I know we're all about finding those benchmarks to compare across our library communities. So I'm curious if I don't know in terms of other industries, or I know you shared a little bit about benchmarking, but do you have thoughts about some of the sort of classic data points that we should be tracking and that we then can compare with other libraries?
Yeah, so I think going back to those first slides, when I started where I kind of put the key metrics, I think those are great starting points. If you're trying to compare benchmark within Facebook, if Charisse mentioned that, you can track other pages. So that helps you benchmark because you are able to track kind of, if you know a few of your top libraries that you want to be comparing yourselves to, Facebook does let you do that within their dashboard. So within the Insight dashboard, you can add pages and you can kind of see. So maybe that's something you add to your monthly report or your quarterly report. I think that you could even do it manually, really, across all of the platforms. You could track kind of followers. There is some external platforms that do this really well. There's Rival IQ and a bunch of other ones, but they do get pretty expensive. So there is kind of paid versions of platforms that do this for you. They're all about figuring out how many likes somebody's getting, what time of day they're posting. So there is kind of, you can go really deep, but just on a kind of free level, you can kind of just set that maybe every month or every quarter you are kind of going and seeing how many followers somebody else has, and also using the Facebook Insights to track pages. Jennifer, are you still there?
Oh dear, I'm so sorry. I was just talking to myself. Yeah, that's a great question. And Michael, I'd encourage you to post that question to the Facebook group, the Social Media and Libraries Facebook group, because I think that's a good question to be surfacing with the broader community. One other question, and then I actually saw somebody ask about the TechSoup donor program and any of the relationships you have with some of these companies. But before you transition to that, in terms of your goals, we loved the examples of your goals. Do you have recommendations, for selecting a few of the goals or using a few of the goals on different platforms? How do you sort of manage that goal setting process knowing there's a lot in there?
Yeah, so I think sticking to 3 makes sense. If that's 2 or 3. So at TechSoup, like I was saying, we really do quarterly goals. So for us, that's only a few months that we're devoting to those goals, and we rethink it. So we kind of ask our marketing team, you know, what's everybody's goals here, and then we kind of set our own goals, maybe corresponding to those goals. So I think really this is something that's a working process, and you don't need to be like overwhelmed with, you know, how there's all these goals. Really just focus on a few of those, and maybe you have a few of those, and then like standard metrics every month that you're tracking in addition to those goals is like a great starting point. And going back every few months, so setting that, you know, time frame, whatever month your team has the capacity to go back and rethink is really helpful. So you don't need to do all of them, just a few of them. And then, like I said, being consistent with the metrics that you're tracking every month, I think, is a great starting point.
Excellent. Charisse, do you have any thoughts about that, knowing that you've been tracking your own library's goals? Are there ones that you think are better to focus on if you're just getting started?
No, I think, well, I mean, of course, what Molly said, but I think when I took over, it was very helpful to start by going back and looking at our performance, and then sort of look forward to see how we could build on that. So if you've like never done it before, Facebook has been collecting all of this for you. So I would just, you know, pick one or two things and really go deep with looking backwards. And then I think quarterly is a pretty good way to do it. We have like an annual goal sheet where we, you know, have our specific numbers that we want to hit and stuff, and we talk about it monthly. So that's sort of our work process too.
Excellent.
Yeah,
all right.
And also we do weekly kind of, we call them weekly meetings, where we look at all of the top performing posts each week. So it's a really short, like, standing meeting type thing, so it doesn't have to be a lot of stuff, but I think that that's really helpful just to like take a look at the analytics, even if it's not being recorded weekly. So that's something we do.
Excellent. All right, well, obviously you can see there's a good reason we have 3 sessions in this series, because there's so much to cover. So thank you to both of you for diving deeply into the analytics piece. And just a reminder to let Molly go to the next slide, that we're continuing to collect your experiences in the survey with libraries and social media, and hoping that we can bring some of that data back to you in a helpful way so that you can use it in your organization. So definitely, if you haven't yet taken that survey, I'll put that link in there, and keep an eye out for that final report next year. And Molly, we'll let you wrap up and be sure folks know about all the amazing resources that you can connect folks to through TechSoup.
Great. So, oh wait. Okay, sorry. So yeah, TechSoup for libraries. So we have our own website just for libraries, and you can go check out a bunch of information there. We have tons of blog content and different types of things, and we also do our own webinars as well. And so our impact, so basically we give technology to libraries at a discounted rate, if you haven't heard about us or used us. And you know, we have saved the libraries a lot of money over time, so we're proud of that, and we're proud to support that. So these are some of our corporate partners. So we have a ton of different technology that you can access through our platform. And if you want to get technology with us, you have to be a public library, and you just sign up on our website and become a member. And we have discounted hardware. So if you're looking for donated desktops, laptops, tablets, hotspots, our hotspots are really cool. Projectors and other things. If you're looking for a mobile hotspot lending program for your library, that's a big popular one. And yeah, and if you're looking for more stuff, really just check us out. And I think somebody was asking specifically about our donor partners. I wasn't sure if that was a library question about social media, or if you're interested in becoming a learning more about that. But just check out our website and feel free to email me if you have any other questions.
Fantastic. And yes, a reminder that we have one more session with Lisa Bunker and Cesar Garza, who have some really innovative things they've been doing with social media. And Lisa is one of the admins for the Libraries and Social Media group on Facebook. And I really encourage folks, if you aren't there yet, to check it out. And I don't know why I have that silly long link in there, but to be sure to ask any questions of that group. It's an excellent community for bringing additional questions that maybe you didn't get answered today. And we look forward to hearing what you are doing at your library with your social media, and we'll look forward to hearing from you between now and then on the Facebook group and then also on December 19th. So thank you so much to all of you to both of you for bringing your great work to the webinar, and to all of you for all the excellent work you're doing in your libraries and with your library's social media. So thank you all, and we'll see you next month. Have an excellent time between now and then.